Behemshach to the limud of Basa v'Chalav. Tonight's shir is very negei halacha l'maisa to everybody almost on a daily basis. And that's the waiting between fleishiks and milchiks. And if we have time, we'll try to get vice versa as well. The Mekoyer is a Gemara. The Gemara in Chulin, Daf Kuf Hey, the Gemara says, Boi minei Rav Asimir Rabbi Yochanan, how long do you have to wait between fleishiks and milchiks? How long do you have to wait? So the Gemara says, Omar Lei, Rabbi Yochanan answered, V'loi klum. From fleishiks, from meat to dairy, you don't have to wait at all. Eini v'Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Rav Chizda achal basar, if you ate meat, asal echal gvina you're allowed to. So the Gemara says, from milchiks to fleishiks, you don't have to wait b'chlal. You don't have to wait. However, from fleishiks to milchiks, what's the shear waiting from fleishiks to milchiks? So the Gemara brings Mar Ukva. Mar Ukva said a shear kimesuda l'suda. B'ha sudasa hu deloy achilna. In that suda I don't eat fleishiks and then milchiks. L'sudasa achrina, to a different suda I do eat. That's what the Gemara says. What is this shear from one suda to another suda? Speaking from fleishiks to milchiks, we're talking about fleishiks to milchiks. What is this shear from one suda to another suda? Tois is machlekes rishonim. Toisvus learns kipshutai. From one suda to another suda means what it says, from one suda to another suda, which means you have to stop and go to another suda. You don't have to wait at all. There's no waiting time b'chlal. As long as you move on to another suda. How do you move on to another suda? You bench. As long as you're benched, you also have to clear up the table, be masala kashulchan, take up the tablecloth. As long as you're benched, you're up until you're by the next suda. Once you're by the next suda, you're ready. You could go move on. You could eat milchiks.
This is not the table, it's enough.
So the truth is, what the problem could be about the mouth is something we'll maybe discuss about later, but the table is really because these crumbs you have to clear up. But Suda l'suda means you have to move on to another suda. So you don't have to wait. You eat fleishiks, bench, and right after benching, you eat milchiks. That's Shitas HaTosfos. The Shach says it's lav dafka benching, which would mean if, let's say, you ate chicken or meat, you didn't wash, you make a boyer of fashas, you move on to milchiks, and you can eat milchiks. That's Shitas HaTosfos. Shitas HaRambam, which we all know, the Shitas HaRambam is that one has to wait 6 hours. How does 6 hours come from Suda l'Suda? The Rambam, and the truth is, Tosfos himself explains that the Gemara says Mesuda l'Suda, from one Suda to the next meal. The Rambam understands, what used to be at least, was that people only ate 2 meals. You ate 2 meals a day, one in the morning and one in the later afternoon. From the first meal to the second meal, there were 6 hours in between. These from one meal to the next meal is 6 hours. So the Gemara it's like saying you have to wait 6 hours. Misuda l'suda doesn't mean wait till the next meal. Misuda l'suda means the time in between the meals, which is 6 hours. So Shitas HaTosfos says Misuda l'suda, there is no waiting time. You eat fleishiks right away, you could go to milchiks, you just have to move to another suda. Shitas HaRambam, the Rambam holds that you have to wait. After eating fleishiks, you have to wait 6 hours until you start eating milchiks. What's interesting to note is that when the Rambam says 6 hours, that you have to wait 6 hours, the Lashon HaRambam is 6 hours, k'moi vav shoyes, like 6 hours. Something like be'erech, veik, kishei shoyes. Lashon HaRambam, misha achal basa betchila, first you ate fleishiks, doesn't make a difference if it was meat, if it was chicken, you have to wait. Shir suda cheres, v'hu, k'moi shei shoyes, like 6 hours. 6 hours, like 6 hours. The Lashon HaRashba, the Rashba says Kishei Shayis, like 6 hours. Lashon HaMeiri and Chulin over there on the Gemara Daf Kufay, the Meiri says Vuhu, you have to wait. Also like this sheet 6 hours. The Meiri says Vuhu Vav Shayis Aikarav Lazeh, 6 hours or close to 6 hours. The Lashon HaKolbay, the Kolbay says Sheyisha Beineim Shir Suda Vuhu Kemoy Shir Shei Shayis. And the truth is that the Das Kedoshim says that even the Lashon HaGemara already is Be'erach. Because the Gemara doesn't say you have to wait Misuda Lasuda. The Gemara says Kim Misuda. What's the Lashon HaGemara? Also, the Le'achilna Lasudasa Achrina Achilna. Doesn't say Kuh. But Akapanim, the Rishonim say that when they say waiting 6 hours, they say Be'erach 6 hours. Mi'idach, when the Shulchan Aruch brings down the din of 6 hours, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't say like 6 hours, the Shulchan Aruch says 6 hours. Side the Machaber that says Medina you have to wait 6 hours, and side the Ramah which brings many different shitas, and the Ramah says you should be machmer to wait 6 hours. He says 6 hours. However, based on what's mavur in the Rishonim, like we just mentioned, that even though Misuda Lasuda is 6 hours, but they all say a lashon of Be'erach 6 hours, the Gedolei HaPoskim found Mokum Lahakol a little bit under 6 hours. It's Yedua from Rabbanan Kotler that said most of the 6th hour is enough. If you wait 5 hours and 31 minutes, you have Roiv of the 6th hour, it's already enough. And that's talking a minig on Lakewood Yeshiva. They serve lunch, fleishiks, and then supper comes around. It's only 5.5 hours later. 5.5 Roiv of the 6th hour is enough. You have 6 hours. That's one shita. 5.5, a little over 5.5 hours.
Why isn't 5 hours itself great? Why do you need that half hour?
What's 5.5 hours? You need roiv of the 6th hour. 31 minutes is roiv of the 6th hour.
6 hours.
Well, the truth is, let's move on to 5 hours, and we'll see maybe over there's something with having a little more than 5 hours. But if you want to have roiv of the hour, we're not miktsas kekulai. There's something of 5 hours and a minute. But to have roiv rubai kekula, you have to have 31 minutes of the last hour to have 6 hours. The Divrei Yatziv says 5 hours, but he only says le'esat tzorich. The minig who are noyig al pira ba'arin, most 5.5 hours, they're noyig like that l'tchatchila, and that's a kiyum of 6 hours. The Divrei Yatziv, the Kloisenberger Rebbe, and he brings a Meiri. The Meiri says, before we mention the Meiri says 6 hours at Karav Lazeh. The Meiri in Mogen of a Simon Tess, the Meiri says to wait 6 hours or Chamish is 5 hours. So basically he says Le'esat Tzorich. He also brings that there's an interesting Pri Chadash. The Pri Chadash says we know you have to wait 6 hours because from the morning meal to the evening meal it's 6 hours. However, in the winter it's a shorter, you eat supper earlier because it seems like you work when it's light. When it gets dark, you go home, you eat supper. So it's less hours, and you actually only wait 4 hours. So he says you only have to wait 4 hours. So they basically want to use this Pri Chadash to say less than 6 hours, 5 hours. But again, the Divrei Yatziv says, the Pri Chadash says 4 hours. There are those that say Mamelo loy plug, and some say Dafka in the winter. Let me see the Pri Chadash talk if he says Dafka in the winter. I'll read you the lashon. I'm not sure if he's dafka in the winter, or because in the winter, mamela it's lav dafka in general. Umiu lav dafka sheishayis, kegoyin b'choyref, which would see me speaking about the winter, shayomim ktsarim, kol sha'as achal basa b'shachar mutal achal gvina b'suda sarayim, v'chenim achal b'chatzi ayoyim. It goes into a few different cases. I'm not sure if it's dafka in the winter, but it's a little problematic because it's loy plug. We're going to get to it soon. Also, other cases of loy plug. You can have different people, different digestion systems. If these are shear, these are shear. But he uses it al kaponim to say from 6 hours to 5 hours. 5 hours. He says la'is atzorech. It seems like many do have this minig of 5 hours. I said this shir over this morning in 10th grade in Shari Torah. So about a third of the shir, a third of the class said that they wait 5 hours. There was 3 bachrim that wait 3 hours. We'll get to that soon, but 5 hours. The Divrei Yatzav, when he says 5 hours, he says la'is atzorech. What's a tzorech? Everyone should ask that Rav. But he says when he's a tzorech. So we have, even though we see that when the Shulchan Aruch says 6 hours, and we see that the Poskim speak about maybe less than 6 hours, 5.5 hours, 5 hours, the pashtus of the Shulchan Aruch is 6 hours. The Chemuda Daniel goes very strong, very stark, that it's 6 hours, dafka, not less than 6 hours. And a lot of the Poskim, Reb Elyashiv, Reb Vosner, the Mishnah Halachas, a lot go that 6 hours is dafka 6 hours and not less than 6 hours. Up until now, we had a machlokes, Tosfos, and the Rambam. Either not, you don't have to wait at all, or you have to wait 6 hours. 6 hours, we saw is be'erach, could be be'erach 6 hours, but either no waiting or 6 hours. However, there are more shitas. These the shita of 1 hour, which is the minig in Holland and Amsterdam. It's a minig of 1 hour, which the Ramah brings. When the Ramah brings a different minhagib, the Ramah brings the 1 hour minig. What's the makor to the 1 hour minig? The makor is a zoyer. The goyim brings the zoyer. The zoyer says that if somebody eats basar v'chalav, whether if he eats it together or if he eats it b'chad shata within the hour together, you could see, Dr. Zoyer, you could see a picture on his face, a picture of a gdi. Why a gdi? Because the Isser Basa v'chalav l'savashla gdi b'chalevi imoy, so you could see a picture for 40 days on his forehead of a gdi. But al kaponim, Dr. Zoyer, somebody who eats Basa v'chalav together, or b'chada shaita, the Lashon, oy b'shaita chada. B'shaita chada means together in the same hour. So you see, if you do it separate, but you only waited an hour, it's enough. So that's the makar for 1 hour. The Ramah brings this. However, the Ramah himself says that it's toiv la'achmer to be noyik to wait 6 hours. The Shach says a lashon that anybody that has a reach, a Torah, should wait 6 hours. And the Taz also says to be machmer, not to go with this 1 hour. There's another shir. So far we have either you don't have to wait at all. That's Shitas HaTosfos, which the Ramah also brings. Shitas HaRambam, which the Ramah brings. Of course, the Machabed, the Ramah brings 6 hours. We have 1 hour. And then there's the minig from Germany, which that's what the minig that the Yakis are noyig is 3 hours. To wait 3 hours. That's not brought in the Ramah, not in the Shulchan Aruch, it's not brought. And the emes is that he's a Makarim Rishonim for this also. If you take a look in Issa Veheta to Rabbeinu Yerucham, the Talmud of the Rosh, he says clearly, I have it printed, if you want to see it inside, he says 3 hours. So we have no waiting, 6 hours, 1 hour, or 3 hours. Another interesting Mokum, an area of leniency, of waiting between fleishiks and milchiks, is what happens if somebody sleeps in between. Would that be a mokum to be able to be mekel, and you don't have to wait 6 hours? It's very negeya. Pesach by night, the Seder, Shulchan Aruch, you have 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you get up early, you want that coffee. It just was the gaya now. Somebody asked me Monday night, he wanted to have fleishiks late Monday night, 11, 12 o'clock, and he wanted to wake up early morning before the alois, 5:30, 5:45 to have a coffee. So there's no 6 hours. Could one be makel, in other words, to wait less than 6 hours when you sleep? So the Chassam Sofer originally, what did you say?
Fine, that's it, 30.
So that's also another case where it would be negeya. I mean, because you nap in between. Taka bringing up what Rav Shlomo Yosef is bringing up about flying, it's taka very negeya. Never mind when you fly. If you fly to Eretz Yisrael, it's technically a long enough flight. It's 10 hours, and if you get the supper right in the beginning, and then it could be 6 hours, at least 5.5 hours. But if you have, let's say, a flight to Europe. Just now, when I went in the summer for training for Mila, it's a 6-hour flight, so they serve fleishiks. 3 hours later, they bring breakfast, it's milchiks, with the whole hechsher, but Lamaisa, is not, you don't have 6 hours. So the shaila is, of sleeping in between, could you cut the hours? So the Chassam Sofer originally held that sleeping helps, because the ikkel, the reason why you have to wait 6 hours, is that digestion takes time, so sleeping it goes faster. Lamaisa, this is brought in Chuvas van Hagas or Moshe Sternbuch bring it, other bring it as well, that there was a Maisa, that the Chassam Sofer, after one night eating fleishiks late at night, in the morning he wanted to rely on this psak, to have a coffee in the morning, milchiks, a coffee with milk, and be able to have that early in the morning, less than 6 hours, and his coffee spilled out. So he took it as a simon hashamayim, not to rely on this makam lakula, which means even sleeping, you still have to wait. Whatever the shear is, the 6 hours, whatever it is, you still have to wait. Bring it more heintedik in Shulchan Alevi. Rebelsky also, when he in Hilchos Basar V'chal, he speaks about it. He says that even if you sleep, you still have to wait the full 6 hours or the shear that you wait. There are more areas to be makel, but then you have to speak to Rav, say a choyle, we're talking about a choyle, she'ein boi sakana, of waiting less than 6 hours. Some say a muberes, a pregnant lady, a nursing mother. Some are even makel b'chlal for a lady. I have over here, they bring that the Chassam Sofer was makel for a lady 5 hours. This is just to bring it up for later, for discussion, for them to look up. We're going to get the kids right now. Very good. What's the halacha with kids? Do kids have to wait? So, I don't know if I could say I could share with everyone. Maybe there's a lot of opinions, but I'll tell you who I'm saying from. And this seems to be pretty angenommen, I can't say by all, by everyone, but at least somewhere to start from. Halacha l'maisi, you could ask your Rav, but this is, I'm going to say over, from the Poskim. Sai Reb Vosner, Sai Reb Yaakov Kamenetsky, others as well. I think Rebelsky also says most of this lagavi a kid. Up until 2 or 3 years old, up until 2 and 3, a kid doesn't have to wait at all. They shouldn't eat milchiks and fleishiks together, but they don't have to wait. They could have cholent, and right afterwards a milk bottle. Again, up until 2, 3, they don't have to wait at all. From 2, 3 till 6, 7, says Reb Vosner, Reb Yaakov Kamenetsky on Yeridea. Other poskim say, over there you should try to train them a little bit, some hours, build up the hours. But it's very, how Reb Vosner even writes it, he says it's a very vague, and you can't define it exactly how many days, how many hours, how long to wait. It's kafi amatzav, how mature the kid is. If the kid really needs it, then you do give. So it's really open-ended, but that much to try to be conscious and try to teach them a little bit about it, some of the hours. That's from 2, 3 till 6, 7. From 6, 7 and on, he's already a din chinuch. You're supposed to be mechanach the kid. So just like you mechanach to take an esrog, you mechanach him to wait 6 hours. However, says Reb Vos and Shevet Alevi, that even though from 6, 7 there's a din chinuch to wait, which means that from the age of 6, 7 you wait 6 hours, he says, since there's a meiri, the meiri says, the meiri is mesupek, maybe a kid doesn't have to wait at all. And the meiri says the reason for that is, First of all, a kid's metabolism is faster, so that's one reason a kid shouldn't have to wait. V'oid, a kid eats much more meals. The 6 hours is because of 2 meals, even though it's a time. A kid doesn't have to wait 6 hours. Lamaisa, Meiri says, loy plug. Meiri says, it seems more that a kid does have to wait. But says Reb Vosner, first of all, the Meiri is misupik about it. And the Ramah itself, the Ramah says, toiv lahachmer 6 hours. So a kid, 6, 7, even though there's a din chinuch, just like you mechanech him to take an esrig, not if he's the mood, you have to mechanech him, explain him, that's the mitzvah, and you do it, so you should be mechanech to wait 6 hours. But le'is hatzorech, you don't have to. Atkan, we spoke different oifanim of, so to speak, leniency in the 6 hours, either almost 6 hours or not even 6 hours, 1 hour, 3 hours. Cotton doesn't have, sometimes younger kids, other cases of not waiting 6 hours. Whatever the shear is, let's go with the shear of 6 hours. When does the 6 hours start? When do you have to start counting 6 hours? These are machlokes haposkim. The Dogel Mervava, which is the more kuladik, the more lenient side, and that's how we paskin. The Dogel Mervava, the Noidi Yehuda says right here, that you start counting from when you finished the fleishig meal. I'm sorry, when you finish the fleishigs itself. It's very negay. Let me explain before saying the machlokes. Shabbos, by the Suda, you finish the cholent, let's say at 12 o'clock. You buy a Sheva Brachas, there's a drasha. Then till they serve the dessert, then there's another drasha. Benching was actually an hour later, at 1 o'clock. So when do you start waiting? Do you wait the 6 hours from when you actually finish the cholent, it's 12 o'clock, stop right, you count 6 hours, or it's from after the Suda? Meaning to say, everybody agrees that even if you wait 6 hours, you have to bench in between. Let's say you're eating a long Suda and you want to go from fleishiks to milchiks, you have to bench. The Aruch HaShulchan speaks it out clearly. It could be that's even the pashtus from the Ramah, the Poskim, but you have to wait, you have to bench in between. When do you start the 6 hours? Do you start the 6 hours from when you actually stop the fleishiks, or from the end of the meal? The same is also applicable after the 6 hours. You want to start milchiks. Do you have to wait 6 hours till the actual pasta, the cheesecake, or even 6 hours just to start the meal? The Dogel Mervava says, you finished your chicken, your meat at 12 o'clock noon, 6 p.m., 6 hours later, even if you start your meal at 5:30, it's fine. You can start your meal. You ended your fleishig meal 1 o'clock p.m. and you started your milchig meal a half hour before the milchiks. As long as it's an actual 6 hours from when you finished the meat to when you started the milk, the dairy, that's fine. Me'idach, the Aruch HaShulchan holds that no, you have to wait 6 hours from the end of the fleishig meal. If you benched at 1 o'clock, and then you have to wait 6 hours, but it's not enough to wait 6 hours till you want to have in your shalosh shuddis, you want to have cheesecake, if that's called a milchig meal, as you have to actually wait to start the Suda, you have to wait 6 hours. So it's 6 hours from the actual fleishiks to the milchiks, or 6 hours from the end of the fleishig meal to the beginning of the milchig meal. So machlokes Dogel Mervava is Meiko, Aruch HaShulchan's machmer. From the Ramah would be mashma when he speaks about 1 hour. The Ramah says you don't have. It doesn't make a difference when you bench before the counting, which would seem for sure the 6 hours doesn't make a difference. The Suda when you bench, you just have to wait 6 hours, and that's the Heintige Poskim can also say you don't have to wait 6 hours from after the meal.
According to the study, you have to wait for this whole meal. But you have to start the meal of that. You're going to be eating fleishik milchiks, and then if you were nimlach and you decided you're going to eat fleishiks, or if you change it, you had in mind to eat fleishiks when you marched, and then later after when you got to the main course, you decided you need milchiks. Is that okay?
So you're talking about, when you say you had in mind to eat fleishiks, you mean the second meal. You started one meal and you had fleishiks. Now you're sitting down to eat milchiks.
No.
I had to eat fleishiks again, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then later you want. You decide now you want milchiks. It's a good shaila. I don't know. But I would say Mesavara that it's not a problem. Why? Because you have to wait 6 hours till you start a milchig meal. When you started the meal, it wasn't a milchig meal. Later you decided to have milchiks. Just like I would even tell you more. I asked around, I looked around, I want to tell you, let's say you taka shal shudas, you're not having a milchig meal, but you want to have afterwards ice cream, milchig ice cream. It could be even over there, Aruch HaShulchan or be maskim. Milchig meal is like as if you're starting milchigs right away.
What does that have to say? What does it mean, a milchig meal?
It's a milchig meal. It means that you're eating milchigs throughout the meal. So if you start that you can eat fleishiks, and then a meal you decide to eat milchigs, so when you started, you didn't start a milchig meal. Milchig meal means that when you start, you're sitting down to eat a milchig meal, that's already considered milchiks. But if you started al das to eat fleishiks and then you eat milchiks later, I would very much think that that's not a problem.
How can you sit down al das to eat milchiks if you can't eat milchiks?
No, fakert. You sat down to eat fleishiks.
But you even sat down to eat milchiks.
No, you can't.
You can't because you can't eat it.
You taka can't.
It's not a milchig meal.
No, you can't. No, if you have to wait 6 hours from the end of the first meal till the next meal, you can't sit down to have a milchig meal. The question you're asking, that's. One more and final din b'negeya waiting from fleishiks to milchiks. Maybe there'll be, as Hashem, be a different opportunity to speak about from milchiks to fleishiks. That's also a very big miktsaya. Waiting, not waiting, but from fleishiks to milchiks. And this is one final din, which is very negeya. What happens if you miss supik? This happens to me all the time. Shabbos by day, the Suda, you realize you benched at about 1 o'clock, but you don't remember how long was it. That half hour can make a very big difference also. Is it Motzah Shabbos? Could you have your coffee already? Do you have to wait another half hour? You miss supik. You miss supik if you're milchik. In other words, you miss supik if you have the count of 6 hours. I mean, 3 hours, I don't think you have that shaila that usually it's covered, la rafcha, no, it's 6 hours. You want to know if you have those 6 hours already, 6 o'clock, Motzah Shabbos after Avdalah, you can have your coffee already. So, l'cha'ira, the din should be, safek d'Rabbanan l'kula, and you should be able to have your mesupik if you finish the meal at 12:30, 12 or 12:30. So at 6 o'clock, 6 hours later from when you mesupik, you should be able to have that coffee.
It's called a suffix.
Why is it not a suffix? Why not? Why not? So you're saying it's not a... You mesupik. Very good, very good. Zogin the poskim, since it's the davish yeshle matirin, memela, what's a davish yeshle matirin? Because you can wait another half hour. In a half hour, it's going to become mutter. It's a davish yeshle matirin. You don't say safek d'Rabbanan l'kula. You don't say safek d'Rabbanan l'kula. Davish yeshle, very good. However, the poskim say that it's really a svek sveika. What's a svek sveika? First of all, you mesupik if you have 6 hours or not. Again, it's a suffix if you need 6 hours. It's a machloikis. And even if you need 6 hours, it could be you have it. So it's a svek sveika. But the Emes says even on svek sveika, you take a look in the Ramah, Siman Kuf Yud and Taruva Sif Ches. The Ramah says that even by svek sveika also you don't say by Davash Yesh Lematirim Lekula. So the Bada Shulchan says he still wants. He says you could be mekel. I don't know if he says a blanket heter of kula, but he says you could be mekel, and he says it's not because of svek sveika. He says based on the Ramah that the Ramah says to be machber, but if you have a suffix or mele, then you can be mekel, but not svek sveika. So just to sum up what we have over here, there's a machloikis and waiting. The Taisa says you don't have to wait b'chlal. Then maybe there's a shita of 1 hour, of 3 hours, of almost 6 hours, of 6 hours. And then these makam where makam lakula, tzad makam lakula, and then we see over here that by makam safik, these zecher makam lahakol, but makam safik if you have the 6 hours and go with the time that you think maybe was 6 hours.
We do 5 hours. We do 5 hours in 1 minute.